All right, so what's going on, guys? So I'm back home in Chicago. As you can see behind me, there is that beautiful skyline. I've been in Korea for a couple of months, and I'm taking this weekend just to kind of process a lot of different things. And one of the things I'm doing just as I settle into the city is to prepare myself for not only the year, but also my life ahead in this city. And this is where I reside. And recently, if you have heard on the news, especially with Chicago, our Mayor Lori Lightfoot has mandated vaccines. So we have to now show proof of vaccination. And in order for you to get into restaurants and entertainment, places of health and fitness and things like that, you have to show a proof of vaccination. And of course, you guys know me, I'm not vaccinated. And I'm not here to preach about you shouldn't be or should be vaccinated and all that. And so pray about that yourself. But you guys know my position, and you know that I trust the Lord. I believe that the Lord will cover me, and I have a lot of different things I've talked about over the course of many months, mainly Romans 14 and our outlook, our heart condition, and how we are responding to each other and many other things. But I'm not here to say or repeat any of those things. But what I'm here to say is that I'm looking at this city, right, and just trying to process that my lifestyle is going to change significantly. And in Korea, in some way, it was pretty bad. I couldn't get into many places, but I just kind of talked my way out of it in some sense when I told them that I'm just a visitor and, just don't have the QR codes and the official, national ID and things like that. And so I got by in some sense, especially even with working out. And so when I'm here, I look at this place and I think to myself, do I want to not? And again, I'm not here to say that, a lot of you guys are vaccinated or like me, you guys are fighting for the unvaccinated. Regardless, if you look at society and you think it's okay right now for the mandates and all these different things to limit your freedoms, if you think that's okay, I'm here to kindly tell you that that is not okay, right? And so even with the gospel, which is the greatest thing that you can ever have, you never stuff it down someone's throat and say, hey, if you don't accept Christ, then you can't eat here, you can't drink here, you can't, do any of these things. So in that same vein, how do you dictate, or why would you dictate something that supposedly you think is good for an individual or society and say, hey, we're going to limit your freedoms and we can't let you do these things. So it's very indicative of, whether you want to say the past, many historical references. World War II comes to mind. If you're a Jew, if you're not, if you have some papers or not, show me your papers. And if it says you're good, then you can go this way. If it doesn't say you're good, you have to go the other way, right? And so we're in a time now where a lot of people are sleeping and they don't realize that this kind of stuff is a stepping stone to more things, right? And so ultimately in the way future, it'll lead to the mark of the beast and all that. But that time's not now. But if you think, you're sitting there and you think it's okay, then I would kindly encourage you to pray about it and see that if your perspective is, and I'm not saying go out there and you gotta, start protesting and doing loud things, but in your own small ways, right? Whether you are, a restaurant owner, whether you are, some person that has some say in how to interact or act with other people, right? And so those that were in the Holocaust during that time, they were complicit. A lot of people were complicit, right? They just, took people on trains and said, hey, get on this train and do this and do that. And they were just complicit, right? And so whether you are or were a Jew or not during that time, it didn't matter, because collectively, if you were awake and you saw what was going on with the people around them at that time, you would have spoken up and you would have said something was wrong. So the same goes right now. Now, I'm not here to talk about convincing you in those kind of things, but I want to encourage some of you guys, because I was reminded today of Daniel. And in the book of Daniel, talks a lot about, or the book talks a lot about different stories, right? Two stories come to mind in particular. The one about King Darius, where the satraps and all the guys, governors, had plotted against Daniel to create an edict that said that if you don't bow down to King Darius, then you would be punished by death, right? So he didn't do that. He instead went to his upper room and prayed 3 times, and he got caught. But regardless, he stood his ground because he didn't want to bow down to the agenda of what these guys are doing, right? In another instance earlier in the book, Daniel and his 3 friends wanted to eat vegetables as opposed to the king's meal, right? Again, a rule or a law or whatever it was, but it was defying what was set up as culturally, society type of thing. And so even now, many of us, whether you are doing something with regards to the vaccines or not, or whether it's something else that might be coming up in the future, if you are standing for God and you're not wavering, like I am now, and many of you guys are as well, then you have to realize that God can protect you. And if you by some chance are a martyr for him in a way, then rejoice as well. But regardless, everything is in a positive, a rejoicing manner for me. And so as I look out into the city, I think to myself, Lord, I don't want to stop working out. I don't want to stop going to some of these, restaurants to eat. I don't want to stop the lifestyle that I have, right? I don't want to just sit in my house and do nothing, right? And not engage in the world and things like that. And so I've been asking the Lord, instead of succumbing, saying I'm going to take the vaccine or I'm just going to stay inside, I asked the Lord, help me. And even this past weekend, as I was going back to the gym, I simply asked him, like, hey, can I give you a religious exemption? And was able to just write a honest letter and saying what my religious views are, what it is that I thought about these things. The person who took it, read it, said, hey, you're good. You can come into this gym. You are exempt, right? And so I said, praise the Lord. So I have to do this in many places, kind of fight around it. But the point is that instead of succumbing to the laws and the satraps and the governors of these times and bowing down, you keep worshiping. You keep going and saying, Father, I believe my health is important. I believe that I want to go interact and fellowship with some people when I go out somewhere at a coffee shop. I would love to go, into whatever venue, whatever it is that I've got to do, right? I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure it's better than being at home all day, right? And so these kind of things, right? And this is just a small baby thing, right? Small things, small pestilences before things get really bad. But the problem is that a lot of us, we're so weak. We're so weak in wanting to stand up and fight. We're so weak in the battle that we're about to fight, that you just say, you know what, I'm going to throw my hands in the air and give up, right? And so again, I'm not here to jab at anybody that took the vaccine or has different views in that. But there are many things in life that God is calling you to stand for. There's a lot of things that God will allow you to fight in the future, to stand for righteousness, to stand for, your convictions and what God has given you. But the problem is that people will fail. They will succumb to the ways of the world, and they will think that it's too difficult, and so they're just going to follow the crowd. But to be a remnant, to be a saint, to be a Christ follower, you have to innately do things that are different against the world, different from the cultures and the times. And a lot of times you're going to face opposition, you're going to face punishment, you're going to face difficulty, restrictions of your freedom, like we are now in this city, just like as it was in King Darius' time, in Daniel's time, and his 3 friends, and many others. And so, guys, God is calling a lot of us to be modern-day Daniels. God is calling us to be standing up for righteousness, for freedom, and not to be sleeping. And many of us are, unfortunately. And so if you guys are in this fight like I am, keep praying. Ask God for a way, for a method, for a process, for an avenue, and for an open door. And just like how I was able to get into my gym, and the grace was, over the people there, and their hearts were softened. I believe that God can soften the hearts of man. God can do these things, but a lot of us, we lack the prayer, we lack the courage, we lack the desire. We want to be conflict avoidant and things like that. And so I'm here to encourage some of you guys to continue standing. And just as I'm looking at the city and I'm thinking how crazy it is that times have changed this way. People would have thought, man, 2 years ago, that kind of stuff, that's a conspiracy. Nobody's gonna limit your freedoms over, a medical, decision and things like that. But look where we are, right? And so even in 5, 10, 20, 30 years time, you think, oh no, those things are just kind of, whack conspiracies or whatever it is. Those things can happen. And especially as it says in the Bible, in terms of the end times, the tribulation, the Antichrist, and many things like that, which is later in the future, later. But again, got to be mindful and got to be in a position where you can stand, just like Daniel, just like Queen Esther, just like many other characters and people in the Bible that have stood strong. So if you're like me, if you're with me, guys, keep praying, keep standing, keep fighting, praying over this beautiful city. I'm here and I want to live my life, guys. I want to live my life. So don't succumb. Keep fighting, keep standing, and want to encourage you guys with that. So God bless you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.